narcissism. Now, this is a term that you've probably heard a lot of these days. It's thrown around a lot and people are quick to jump on the "this person is a narcissist" bandwagon. So if you actually want to know what a narcissist is and whether you are dealing with one, then I recommend that you watch to the end of this video. Now, narcissistic personality disorder is actually a disorder. It's a personality disorder and it's something that is diagnosed. Now, what I must do is I must differentiate that someone can have narcissistic qualities in them but not have the narcissistic personality disorder. This is what we must learn if we want to know if someone is actually a narcissist or somebody is just someone who has narcissistic qualities. And even within the actual disorder itself, the narcissistic personality disorder, there are ranges. So you can have somebody who's very much on the higher end of the narcissistic personality disorder spectrum, and there's people who are on the lower end of the narcissistic personality spectrum. So it's not as clear-cut as you may think, but I'm going to explain it to you today so you can really see, are you dealing with a true narcissist, or are you just dealing with somebody who is, generally speaking, selfish and could have some narcissistic qualities, but is not somebody that you maybe need to run to the hills from. Maybe they're not your, Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy types. Now, one of the underlying main characteristics of somebody who is a narcissist with the narcissistic personality disorder is that they care about themselves and what they want and not what other people want. That is their underlying main concern. And this goes above and beyond normal selfishness, but it's something that if they want it, they're gonna have it. It doesn't matter about the other person because their needs will always come first. Now, when they've got this core characteristic, just to build on top of that, narcissistic personality disorder types will also have a very delusional, false sense of importance about themselves, where they will think that they are the most important person in the world, that everybody should love them, and that they are very powerful, unique, and more important than other people. Pretty much more important than anyone else on the planet. They like to feel a sense of importance and they like to receive special treatment from other people, which often means that they need a lot of attention from people. And they will use different ways in order to get this attention. It can be both in a positive way, but more than likely it will be in a negative way. And people who have this disorder tend to also be more criminally minded, which can often explain why getting attention, getting in a negative way, sometimes they will go to whatever lengths they need to in order to get that attention or feel important. Not only that, they struggle to fit into society as a whole because they feel like they're better than everybody. They struggle when other people don't necessarily treat them this way. So that will also push them towards going into more of a negative direction in general. They also very much struggle to form meaningful relationships with other people. They don't really have a close relationship even with their parents, with people who are very close to them, blood relatives, friends. They struggle to maintain a sense of relationships with anybody. They are very volatile in their behavior. They can be very happy one minute and very sad and angry the next, especially if they feel like you don't recognize their opponents or give them the respect that they feel that they deserve, then they're very much likely to flip on you in an instant. And that very nice person will suddenly come out to be very manipulative, aggressive, abusive. But believe it or not, people who have narcissistic personality disorder, they tend to have a low sense of self-worth. And you're probably thinking, well, but they're narcissistic, they think they're amazing, they think they're the best person in the world. Yes, they do, but at the same time, they also have a low sense of self-worth. And this can often be made worse because people don't give them the respect or the love or the admiration that they think that they feel that they deserve. This can often lead them to also be more anxious, upset. They can be more prone to impulsive behaviors. They can be more prone to, like I said before, criminal activity. And unfortunately, they can also be more prone to suicide. Not only that, unfortunately, they are also more likely to cause harm to other people and have a very low sense of empathy towards other people. As long as they are getting what they want, they're not really bothered about the other person's feelings as much, or they don't tend to understand or comprehend another person's feelings because they think they are the most important person. And because of this behavior, they can often tend to be very manipulative. They can often tend to be very selfish because you have to remember they care about getting what they want. They don't really care about anybody else. A lot of times people who are narcissistic will not be happy if somebody else is being successful in life. they might help them out here and there, but if, you know, God forbid, the other person gets more successful, they feel that the other person is going to be just as successful, they're going to panic, they're going to try to turn it around, they're going to try their best to try and bring this other person down. And even if they think that another person is more confident than them, more happy in life than them, they're going to try and do what they can to make the other person feel bad, because they don't feel as good about themselves, because they have a low sense of self-worth themselves. So they're going to try and tear you apart, and doing this is going to make them feel better. Narcissists are also very likely to have an impulsive nature, and I have a video on that too, which is how to deal with impulses, which I'll link up here. And I'm going to be making more videos on that in the future, so stay tuned. But it's very important that if you feel like you have an impulsive attitude and you think it's damaging your life, that you learn to get a control over it, because it does tend to veer into this personality disorder. I'm not saying you have it, absolutely, I'm not saying that, but what I'm saying is it's something that is destructive if it's left unchecked. And people who have this disorder are usually more likely to be impulsive and do things that in the moment feels right, or they don't have a lot of emotional control over themselves, and then afterwards regret it. So maybe someone says something about them that they really don't like. And with narcissistic personality disorder types, they tend to take things a lot more personally. They tend to be a lot more sensitive when somebody criticizes them, even if it's like a tiny degree. So when that happens, they're going to become very volatile. They're going to start yelling, screaming. They might even go into a very big passive aggressive stage where they just kind of completely shut down and move away from you. And I'm not talking like a day or two, you know, I'm annoyed, I'm going to leave it alone. I'm talking like they really completely shut down and they completely just block you out of their life. So it's very important that if you are dealing with somebody like this, that you learn how to manage it. You learn exactly what you need to do when they behave like this. So if they are completely blocking you out and moving away from them, and you've apologized, even if you haven't, let them be. That's what I would say. Let them be. You don't want to trigger something else. If you feel like it deserves an apology, maybe give them an apology. But after that, move away. You don't need to keep continuously going after somebody and chasing them, because that's just going to feed more into their narcissism. So it's better to just, if you feel like you've done something wrong, apologize and move away. If you don't think you've done anything wrong and they've completely blocked you out, then don't apologize. Just leave them alone and carry on with your life. And eventually, if they've calmed down, cooled down, they'll come back after you anyway. If they become volatile, angry, abusive, then it's very important that you remain calm, because if you're going to yell, scream, be volatile and angry back, it's just going to add more fuel to the fire, and it's going to make the situation a lot worse. So at that moment, the best thing that you can do is maintain your composure, realize that getting angry is not helping anything. You should be the water to their fire. You should walk away from the situation, even if that's not what you want to do and you want to get your point across, but they're not in any frame of mind to actually listen to you. It's better if you just walk away. If you just say, look, I don't want to argue with you, let's just drop it, let's talk about something else. And if they want to carry on, which they probably will, if they want to force an apology and you don't want to give it, or if they're getting violent, or you feel like it's escalating, leave the situation as soon as possible. Make an excuse, get off the phone, make an excuse, leave the vicinity. Just do it in a cool, calm way, and just say, look, we'll catch up in a bit. And if you remain cool and calm and you don't feed into the fire, then eventually they will calm down, because they do have very up and down personalities. So they're not going to be the same all the time. But overall, it's very important that we don't feed into the narcissistic tendencies. We don't feed into the narcissistic behavior. And if we recognize these tendencies, we take the appropriate measures to make sure that it doesn't hurt us or the people around us. Whether that's you who have these tendencies or you feel like it's somebody else who has these tendencies. Because like I said, being self-critical is a great way of personal growth, and it also means that you are not a narcissist and you don't have narcissistic qualities if you're constantly changing, evolving and growing and willing to take criticism on without taking it too personally. Which brings me on to my next point, that although all of these things kind of fall into the realm of somebody with a narcissistic personality disorder, people can often have a lot of these traits and still not have the actual disorder. So it's very important that we differentiate people who actually have the disorder compared to people who just possess qualities and traits from this disorder. And the only real person who can decide whether somebody has a narcissistic personality disorder is a qualified professional. So as much as we like to claim that someone is a narcissist, unfortunately, unless you are a qualified professional, it's very difficult to actually say that they are overall a narcissist or have a narcissistic personality disorder. What we can say is they have the traits of a narcissist, And often that comes across as somebody who, like I said before, just wants to hurt somebody. Somebody who doesn't really care about another person's feelings. Somebody who will push other people down to make themselves feel better and is very selfish in life. And unfortunately, in today's day and age, we see a lot of this happening. And there are a lot of different reasons for this. And I know I always harp on about it, but social media is definitely one of these. We are told to be more isolated as people. We are told that relationships really don't matter as much, and that money, fame, material things matter more than relationships with other people do. Yes, it's important to not care what other people think about you to the level where you're not ruining your own mental health over it. But it is important to be a good person, to treat other people how you would want to be treated. And often a lot of people do not understand this, which gives them traits which replicate that of somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. So we have to kind of look at society as a whole. We have to kind of look at where we're going as a society. And everybody wants, the perfect online social media image. Everybody wants to look a certain way. A lot of people want to look like their filters. Everybody wants to earn a certain amount of money. Everybody wants to have having a holiday all the time and not having to work a lot lifestyle. And they want to buy into this image. And a lot of times when they can't have that and they feel like they absolutely deserve it, then they're going to do whatever it takes to get it, even if that means stepping on other people, if that means destroying somebody else's life. They're going to use people. They're going to manipulate them as tools. They're going to use them to their own ends to get where they want and what they want in life. Now, that's not to say that this person is a total narcissist and has the personality disorder. Like I said before, only a qualified professional can diagnose that, because they might not have the other tendencies that I've mentioned before. And I'm sure as I was going through this list of definitions, you're probably thinking, you know what? I possess some of these qualities too. If we're very honest with ourselves, some of us do possess a lot of these qualities. And it's not to say, oh my God, you're a terrible person, but it's important that we have an honest conversation with ourselves. We recognize who we are as individuals, and then we take the steps necessary to overcome these issues or insecurities or problems that we're having in our lives. There's definitely a lot of help available. Often the more people develop in life, the more that they interact with other people, the more that they see people in different situations in life, the more that they can really empathize. Whereas as when we're growing up, we tend to be a lot more selfish. I'm not saying everybody, but we tend to be a lot more selfish because we are treated in a way where a lot of our needs are met, but we don't have to meet the needs of a lot of other people. Whereas when you get older and you have a lot more responsibilities, we then have to kind of switch roles. We have to meet the needs of other people around us more and not have so many of our own needs met. So this kind of balances out. But with a lot of people who have, narcissistic personality disorder, they never kind of really fall out of this pattern of having people pander to them and them not having to kind of give back. And this is what causes a lot of imbalance and problems. And it's not to say people who have narcissistic personality disorder are very happy with themselves. As I've just mentioned before, a lot of the times they are some of the most unhappy people that you will ever meet. And they are the most reluctant to get help, and they're the most reluctant when they're getting help to stay motivated to get that help and to actually fully change. Because if you don't feel like you have anything wrong with you, if you feel like you are a very important person and people should like you more and the problem is with them, then you're going to be a lot more hesitant to change. Whereas if you are more empathetic, if you realize that there's issues that you need to work on, if you are more self-critical in a way that you know that you need to change, then you are going to take the steps. You are going to work on yourself to make those changes. Somebody who has the qualities of a narcissistic personality disorder can actually change if they take active steps. They're not necessarily a lost cause, and they're not necessarily that you need to run to the hills from. Nobody is perfect. We're not perfect. Nobody is perfect. So it's important to recognize, if you meet somebody and you see that they possess a lot of these qualities, maybe you want to direct them to somewhere where they can get help. And maybe you want to keep them at arm's length, even if you don't want to completely cut them out. But if you feel like you have these qualities, maybe you want to seek help. Maybe you want to make a difference in your life and see that maybe you're hurting other people. Maybe this is why you're having a lot of trouble in your life to keep relationships, to progress in life. Because people with narcissistic personality disorder, they're not often the most successful people in life, even though you might think that they are. Some are and some aren't. It just depends really. So if you are seeing problems in that too, maybe really have a look and see if there's things that you can change in order to be more successful, be happier, form better relationships. And sometimes having that honest conversation with yourself really does put you on the path to proper self-development and growth. It's also very important to realize when people are manipulating us. And a lot of the time, people with narcissistic personality disorder or their traits will do things where they will try and put themselves down. They will talk less about themselves so the other person will give them compliments. They will tell you a story about how bad they feel, and maybe this story is true, but they try to invoke empathy in other people so they will get better treatment, even though they don't actually give this empathy back to other people. And that's what's so ironic. Oftentimes they just want to use somebody. They want to use somebody so, you know, for an ego stroke so they can feel better about themselves. Sometimes they want to use somebody because they want to step on them to get ahead in life. And it's very important that we recognize people like this, that we don't let people take advantage of us, that we set healthy boundaries, and that we learn to say no. And I have a video on that, which I'm going to post, which is going to appear just right here, just here. So you can have a look at that too. But if you are afraid of being used by somebody who's a narcissist, or getting into a relationship with someone who's a narcissist, or you are recovering from somebody who was a narcissist and you're trying to understand better, then working on yourself is always going to help. Personal growth is never a bad thing. And learning to set healthy boundaries, learning to recognize manipulation tactics, learning to say no to people, to let go of people who are not necessarily good for you, which I also have a video on, which I'm gonna link right here, just here. All of these things are gonna help you to spot a narcissistic person and then do what you need to in order to not be hurt by them. Because like I said before, a narcissist is gonna hurt you more likely than not, because they're not gonna have the empathy, and hurting other people sometimes makes them feel better about themselves. Believe it or not, this is actually very, very true. So it's important that we learn to protect ourselves and our loved ones. It's important that we learn to recognize these traits in people and try our best to help these people. And if we can't help, at least keep them at arm's length so they don't damage us. And if we recognize any of these qualities within ourselves, it's very important that we get the help that is out there to improve ourselves. So if you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe to the Mind Council channel. In the comments below, I would love to hear from you, your dealings with somebody that you thought was a narcissist. Maybe you think someone is a narcissist. After watching this video, do you still think they're a narcissist? I want to hear more from you. I want to hear more from your experiences. So please comment below, tell me more about it, and let's start a discussion on it, because it is such a hot topic these days.